just a quick review of the Happymart arthritis gloves. So these gloves are made specifically for people that have hand arthritis, and they work two specific ways in order to help decrease the symptoms of hand arthritis. The first thing is they provide compression, and so compression helps get out swelling that you may have in your hands. So if you put these on, the compression gets out swelling, you're able to move your fingers a lot better, they're more flexible, and so you have less pain. And you can do anything you want a lot easier too. The other thing is they provide warmth. So we all know that heat helps arthritic symptoms. So you put these on after about 30, 60 minutes, your hands get a little warmer, circulation gets better, everything's more flexible, and heat always helps pain in most cases. So those are the two ways that these things work to help with your hand arthritis. So a few points about these particular gloves. They do have an open finger design, which I really like. So you don't have to worry about, yes, you'll be able to use your phone with it, the touch screens. And if you do things like, let's say you have trouble sewing, or you can't sew as long, or you can't knit as long, or any kind of crafting for a long period of time, or maybe you can't do it at all, put the gloves on. You got the open finger design, so you can do those fine motor skills and stuff, and have better dexterity. So that's all a big plus. One thing to be aware of is that these are hand wash only, which is kind of funny because, if you're buying these because you have arthritis and you have hand arthritis, which, it hurts to move your hand and do certain things. And then these gloves end up being hand washed. You got to use your hands to wash them. So anyway, just be aware of that. There are other kinds that are machine washable. Just something to keep in mind as you're looking at arthritis gloves. So permanent temporary relief, how does this work? Well, basically, when you put these on, after about 30 to 60 minutes, swelling starts to go down if you have any, and your hands are warmer, they're more flexible, so you're doing pretty good. But after you take them off, probably about 30 to 60 minutes later, the swelling can come back because there's no more compression, and your hands definitely aren't as warm as they used to be with the gloves on. But I think there's actually a way to use gloves like these to get long-term relief, even long after you've taken the gloves off. So what you need to do is a couple things. So first thing is hand exercises. So we all know that if your hands are stronger and more flexible, you're going to be feeling better. And bottom line, even if they don't feel better, they're going to be working better. We all know that exercise is a proven treatment for arthritis. Okay, that's said in the literature. But you can't do any exercises right now because your hands hurt. So what you do is you put these gloves on. After about 30, 60 minutes, then you can do a few hand exercises. And week by week, as your hands get stronger and more flexible, you're going to have that long-term carryover. You take the gloves off, your hands are still strong, they're still flexible. So that's how you get that long-term carryover. So as an example, on this book, Treat Your Own Hand and Thumb Osteoarthritis, you might want to just do a couple things like range of motion exercises. So if you go to hand therapy or occupational therapy, they're always going to have you do range of motion exercises. So why is that? Well, the joints in your hand are synovial joints, and they have synovial fluid in them. Synovial fluid brings nutrition to the articular cartilage, okay? And how does that synovial fluid get spread around? Through motion. So if your hands are hurting and you're not moving them very much, or you're taking them through the full range of motion, you're not going to get that synovial fluid spread around really like you should. And so your articular cartilage could suffer. So always do some range of motion exercises. Other thing you might want to consider, doing just a couple strengthening exercises. This book advocates using like a light dumbbell, for instance, to work your finger flexors, your pinch grip, that kind of thing. Good thing about using a dumbbell, actually strengthening exercises, you really only need to do them twice a week to get some good strength. You don't need to do these every day, by the way. So what you do is you do like a dumbbell, like a 2-pound dumbbell. And then once you can do them really well, then you can do a 3 or 4-pound dumbbell. So really the only way to get stronger is progressive resistance. So you need to keep adding weight as time goes on, as you're able to, and that's how your hands get stronger. Because look, if you use the same weight all the time, you're not going to get any stronger. Last thing, this is interesting. So thumb arthritis, if you have it, you know it. I don't need to tell you much about it. What happens is there actually is something you can do about that. There's a muscle called your abductor pollicis longus. You see where that sucker inserts right at the base of the thumb, and that's where all the problems are at, and that's where you have the pain at. So this book advocates an exercise for your abductor pollicis longus using a rubber band for progressive resistance. So if you do the exercise a couple times a week by week, your abductor pollicis gets stronger. So what happens is you get more joint stability, you get a more stable joint, and it stays where it's supposed to. You get more stability as you're moving it. And so all that equals less pain. So there actually are some things you can do about it. It doesn't take long to do, but you got to know what to do. But hey, you can't do them now. Put on the gloves, try some range of motion exercises, strengthening exercises, and then you'll be looking pretty good long after you take the gloves off. So anyway, good pair of gloves. Check them out.